Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Hidden in the Stars, the podcast where we discuss all things astronomy. This week, we're talking about the planets in our very own solar system. What is the solar system? Let's start by simply looking at the two words. The solar system is just that, the system of planetary bodies and more surrounding the sun. You may recognize the Spanish word for sun, sol, there in the word solar. Seems to make a little bit more sense now, doesn't it? Still, let's get an official definition. We are scientists after all. Oxford defines the solar system as the collection of 8 planets and their moons in orbit around the Sun, together with smaller bodies in the form of asteroids, meteoroids, and comets. These 8 planets are Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, listed closest to furthest from the Sun. They each have a different number of moons, and some of them even have rings. All but Venus and Uranus orbit counterclockwise around the Sun. They all rotate on their own tilted axis as they revolve on these unique ellipse-shaped orbits. The planets revolve in what look like concentric circles, but don't worry, they're not going to crash into each other. They do, however, align in straight lines sometimes. We've mentioned these in the Parade of Planets podcast before. Variably, they align more often than you would think. Refer to that episode for more interesting information on what it means when the planets align. Now let's get to those planets. As a preface, in astronomy we use SI units. SI units, which I think would be another great topic for an episode, are anything using kilometers, kilograms, or Kelvin. Because I am a decent human being and not a tyrannical overlord, I will use kilometers and not centimeters. A nice, easy base of 1,000 to try to visualize. First, we have Mercury. Closest to the Sun, approximately 68.8 million kilometers away, is Mercury. Mercury is around 4.5 billion years old. Keep in mind that our solar system is only about 4.6 billion years old. The diameter of Mercury's orbit is about 140 million kilometers, as its orbit varies between 46 million kilometers at its perihelion and 69.8 million kilometers at its aphelion. Recall from the podcast Blue Moons that perihelion and aphelion are the closest and furthest points from the Sun, respectively. Mercury itself has a diameter of 4,879.4 kilometers, making it slightly larger than 1/3 the size of the Earth. Being that it is one of the inner planets, it is terrestrial and rocky with an iron core that spans 2,027.7 kilometers wide. The length of 1 year, or 1 revolution around the Sun, takes 88 Earth days. 1 day on Mercury takes 59 Earth days. However, a solar day on Mercury, which is the time it takes for the Sun to return to its highest point in the sky, takes 176 Earth days. The gravity on Mercury is 3.7 meters per second squared, making it roughly 2.65 times less than the gravity here on Earth. It is the second most dense of the planets at 5.43 grams per cubic centimeter. Its color is light gray, somewhat like the silicates on Earth. Mercury does not have any moons or rings. You may have heard the common phrase, Mercury in retrograde. This simply means that from Earth's perspective, the planet Mercury appears to be moving backwards in its orbit. Second closest to the Sun is Venus. Venus is approximately 108.2 million kilometers away from the Sun. It is also 4.5 billion years old. Venus itself has a diameter of around 12,100 kilometers, as its orbit varies between about 107.5 billion kilometers at its perihelion and about 108.9 million kilometers at its aphelion. The next inner terrestrial planet, it has a 80% iron and 6% nickel core that spans about 3,000 kilometers wide. The length of 1 year, or 1 revolution around the Sun, takes 225 Earth days. 1 day on Venus takes 243 Earth days. A solar day on Venus is 116.75 Earth days long. The gravity on Venus is 8.87 meters per second squared, which is almost the same as here on Earth. It is the third most dense of the planets at 5.24 grams per cubic centimeter. Its color is golden brown caused by the sulfur. It has no moons or rings. The third closest planet to the Sun is our home planet Earth. Earth is approximately 149.6 million kilometers away from the Sun. It's also somewhere around 4.5 billion years old. Earth itself has a diameter of around 12,800 kilometers, as its orbit varies between about 147.1 million kilometers at its perihelion and about 152.1 million kilometers at its aphelion. the third inner terrestrial planet. It has a solid inner core made of primarily iron and nickel that spans approximately 1,220 kilometers wide. For those of you that don't know, the gravity here on Earth is 9.8 meters per second squared. It is the densest of all the planets at 5.51 grams per cubic centimeter. Earth's colors are blue and green from the water and plant life. It has one moon and no rings. The fourth closest planet to the Sun is Mars. Mars is approximately 228 million kilometers away from the Sun. It is also nearly 4.6 billion years old. Mars itself has a diameter of around 6,800 kilometers, as its orbit varies between about 206.7 million kilometers at its perihelion and about 249.3 million kilometers at its aphelion. The last inner terrestrial planet is rocky with an iron, nickel, and sulfur core that spans 1,830 kilometers wide. The length of 1 year, or one revolution around the Sun, takes 687 Earth days. 1 day on Mars takes 24 hours, 37 minutes, and 22 seconds on Earth, and its solar day takes 24 hours, 39 minutes, and 35 seconds on Earth. A Martian day is roughly 39 minutes longer than a day here on Earth. The gravity on Mars is 3.73 meters per second squared, making it roughly 2.63 times less than the gravity here on Earth. It is the fourth densest of the planets at 3.93 grams per cubic centimeter. Its color is red. The red is caused by the iron oxide. Mars does have two small moons, Phobos and Deimos. While Mars doesn't have any rings right now, it may have had some in the past. The fifth closest to the Sun is Jupiter. Jupiter is approximately 778 million kilometers away from the Sun. It is also 4.6 billion years old, just like the Sun. Jupiter itself has a diameter of around 142,984 kilometers, easily making it the biggest planet in our solar system. As its orbit varies between about 741 million kilometers at its perihelion and about 816.3 million kilometers at its aphelion. The first of the outer Jovian planets is gaseous with a partially dissolved rock-forming core made of heavy elements that some scientists think are larger than Earth, while other scientists think is a few Earth masses large. The length of 1 year is about 12 Earth years long, or 4,333 Earth days. 1 day on Jupiter takes 9 hours and 56 minutes in Earth time. This is because of how quickly Jupiter rotates, around 43,000 kilometers per hour. The gravity on Jupiter is 24.79 meters per second squared, making it roughly 2.53 times more than the gravity here on Earth. Jupiter is the third least dense of the planets at 1.33 grams per cubic centimeter. Its color is yellow, brown, and red. These colors are caused mostly by hydrogen and helium with swirling storms. Jupiter has 95 moons and 4 main ring structures. As you may remember, the 4 largest moons even have their own name, the Galilean moons. Jupiter is known for its Great Red Spot. That is, in fact, what it's called, the Great Red Spot. It's a pretty self-explanatory spot seen on the surface of Jupiter. There's actually a giant high-pressure atmospheric storm. It's the largest storm in our solar system and has been rampaging for hundreds of years. We'll cover space storms, including the Great Red Spot, in another episode. The sixth closest planet to the Sun is Saturn. Saturn is approximately 1.4 billion kilometers away from the Sun. It is also 4.5 billion years old. Saturn has a diameter of around 120,500 kilometers. Its orbit varies at about 1,357.6 million kilometers at its perihelion and about 1,506.5 million kilometers at its aphelion. Being the second outer Jovian planet, it's gaseous with a dense core of metals like iron and nickel, surrounded by rocky materials solidified by pressure and heat that spans an estimated 70,000 kilometers wide. That means that the core takes up roughly 60% of the planet's diameter. The length of 1 year, or one revolution around the Sun, takes 29.4 Earth years. 1 day on Saturn takes 10.7 Earth hours. The gravity on Saturn is 10.44 meters per second squared, making it just barely more than here on Earth. It is the least dense of all the planets at 0.69 grams per cubic centimeter. Its color is much like Jupiter, with hues of yellows, browns, and grays instead of red. Again, these colors are caused mostly by hydrogen and helium gases. It has 146 moons, more than any other planet in our solar system. It is also known for its rings, of which there are 7 main rings. The 7 main rings are broken into 2 groups, the main rings and the fainter rings. There's also gaps between the rings, the most notable of which is called the Cassini division, separating the A and B rings. The main rings are A, B, and C. The fainter rings are D, E, F, and G. The second furthest planet from the Sun is Uranus. Uranus is approximately 2.9 billion kilometers away from the Sun. It is also 4.5 billion years old. Uranus has a diameter of around 50,700 kilometers, as its orbit varies between about 2.5 billion kilometers at its perihelion and about 3 billion kilometers at its aphelion. The third outer Jovian planet, it's gaseous with a small, rocky core surrounded by a dense liquid layer of water, methane, and ammonia that spans 14,000 kilometers wide. The diameter of Uranus' core is slightly larger than Earth's entire diameter. The length of 1 year, or one revolution around the Sun, takes 84 Earth years. 1 day on Uranus takes 17 hours and 14 minutes on Earth. The gravity on Uranus is 8.69 meters per second squared, making it slightly weaker than the gravity on Venus. It is the second least dense of the planets at 1.27 grams per cubic centimeter. Its color is cyan. This color is caused by methane, ammonia, and various ices. Due to its color, it's often referred to as Neptune's twin, also because of its size. Fun fact, Uranus was originally named after the astronomer who discovered it. It was named George. It has 27 moons and 10 narrow rings. Finally, the planet furthest from the Sun is Neptune. Neptune is approximately 4.5 billion kilometers away from the Sun. It is also 4.5 billion years old. Neptune itself has a diameter of around 49,244 kilometers, as its orbit varies between about 4,471.1 million kilometers at its perihelion and about 4,558.9 million kilometers at its aphelion. The fourth and last of the outer Jovian planets is gaseous with an iron, nickel, and silicate core that spans around 20,000 kilometers wide. The length of 1 year, or one revolution around the Sun, takes 165 Earth years, or 60,190 Earth days. 1 day on Neptune takes 16 hours, 6 minutes on Earth. The gravity on Neptune is 11.15 meters per second squared, making it roughly 1.14 times more than the gravity here on Earth. It is the fourth least dense of the planets at 1.64 grams per cubic centimeter. Its color is blue. This color is like its twin caused by methane, ammonia, and various ices. Twin to Uranus is slightly smaller and bluer in hue. It has 16 moons and 6 narrow rings. Neptune's most known moon is Triton. You may have heard of it before. It's also Neptune's largest moon. Even though there's only 8 planets in our solar system, there's over 100 billion planets in our galaxy alone. Some scientists even estimate that there are as high a number as 8 trillion total planets. That's just in our Milky Way galaxy. We'll discuss that more in a later podcast. With 8 planets and over 760 moons in our solar system, are you feeling small yet? Go back to those SI units and look at the conversions. Take a second to think about how big these measures must truly be. You could almost say they're astronomical. Whether it be an atom or a light year, astronomy will cover it all. The depths of space and time are never ending, with unimaginable secrets to be revealed through the wonderful trials and errors that are math and science. After taking in this plethora of information, which planet do you find the most interesting? What astronomy topic would you like us to discuss next? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you for joining us on our journey to uncover all the secrets of the cosmos. Catch you next time on Hidden in the Stars.